It's a philosophy of going the extra mile. It's the do unto others. It's part of our mission statement is to follow the golden rule, and that really breaks down to treating other people as you want to be treated, giving the kind of service that you want to give. People don't talk about average service. People only talk about really great service or really lousy service. We want our customers to talk about us, but we want them to talk about us, our great service. That's what we're trying to get them to talk about. Average service, nobody talks about. We want them to talk about our great service. And we do a lot of things. Our employees look for ways to kind of go over the top. And in this company, they're rewarded when they do that. I hope there's hundreds of examples out there, and I hope there are 100 more still to come.
In order now that we have a recorder, batteries, all the commissioners present, and are going to be here.
We are good to go.
Oh boy, let's see. Where's the audio visual aid when you need them?
There we go. First item, approval of the minutes of the last week's meeting.
I think the meetings are y'all tell me if I'm wrong. When it says when we're talking about who did the consent agenda, it said I did and then I did. And I think I did and then Jim did.
Jim did the second.
It's item 6 where it says Commissioner Green seconded by Commissioner Sims to approve A through C and then E, and then when we moved on to D, it says that the motion was made by Commissioner Green, but it wasn't. It was made
Should
by.
be Sims and Jessica hit it.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Okay. And we will get that change made.
Okay.
Good catch.
Yeah, I did say.
We count on you.
I know, don't
Now
know
we're
the
jotting
job.
this down. I can't believe it.
I'm not infallible.
We didn't know that.
Don't tell anyone now.
Okay. Next.
Item number 2, resolution, public transportation system. This continues the discussions that we've had since back when the latest census data came out, and whether or not Amarillo officially remained under the 200,000 population. Of course, the city limits obviously does by quite a bit. At one time, there was some question as to how Federal Transit was going to consider the surrounding areas. That has been sorted out. This resolution is requested of you by the Texas Department of Transportation. We'll then send it forward through them and thus keep your bus system running, at least until we get to the next census.
Okay.
Okay, so we're good after this through
Next census.
2020.
Yeah, it takes them about a year to get it back.
Assuming what happens between now and then, so we need to start sort of thinking.
Well, we're there.
Oh, I think we need to already be thinking that.
I mean,
Could be
isn't it 2 million we get from them, but part of ours is matching. What does it really affect our general budget?
In total?
What would we have to do to make up?
It's 200,000 threshold with the current rules. You lose your operating assistance,
Right.
Which is just the drivers, the fuel, the maintenance, etc. If you stay fully under the Federal Transit guidelines for the equipment and so forth that you use, you can continue to get the capital money as you go forward, but no more operating money.
2 million?
Would you look it up, Vicki, or do you have it on top of your head?
About what our capital is?
No, the operating.
About 750,000-ish.
Where did I get? Is it 2
Yeah, it's
million?
bigger
But it's but then we put the rest in capital.
Well, and we've got all the ARA money we're still spending
True.
down. Well,
Okay.
the budget book, look it
I mean,
up.
it's a ways off, but it isn't.
No, it's not an
Figure out
option.
how to replace that.
Well, a penny on the tax rate is just under 1 million in terms of what that nets to the city.
I would still argue we have a well-functioning, inadequate system.
I was gonna say it's inadequate
I
now.
mean, right now, if you get on a bus at 24th and Heather, it takes 2 hours and 45 minutes. Once the bus comes, to get to Northwest Texas Hospital. Where's Heather? 24th and Heather, way northeast. It's the last stop northeast. It's 2 hours, 2:45, once the bus picks you up. I passed a lady in a snowstorm last year with a little bundle. It was a baby on tent. Of course, you can't stop and help her. Who is this guy stopping? You know, and she's sitting there in the cold. And we don't think about how that affects some people. We also don't think about that it's closed and Amarillo College is still open. We don't think about.
Oh, transportation is our students' #1 issue. They cannot get to school.
And I'm not criticizing what we do. We do an unbelievable amount. Judy Phelps should be complimented on all that she does. It's not that criticism. It's that we have a very efficient, inadequate system. It's not adequate for what our population needs.
And we've continued to stretch the system.
Yeah.
You know, when Advo relocated, we
Yep.
stretched a route,
Yep.
and that very high
Social
ridership.
Security Department, when it moved, you stretch that route.
We're moving out to points west to serve the Blue Cross Blue Shield and the Adams Call Center. It is stretched. You know,
Have we looked at what other cities our size are doing? I mean, does somebody
There,
else have a better
some
idea?
have, you can explain this, but I was told some of the ability to put in a metro tax, and we don't because we're capped.
There are several different mechanisms. There are transit authorities. Of course, the funding mechanisms are different depending on how you set that up. Most cities, they increase their fare box, the charge that you pay on the bus, even though that still is a minor piece of what's covering it, and they pick it up through general fund revenue. The push lately, especially in the larger areas, has been towards high-speed mass transit, the DART, the light rails, all of those.
Obviously, that ain't gonna happen in Amarillo.
Something.
But we can work.
Well,
with the
ridership, no, but it isn't necessary. It's just necessary to keep them up. We can't go to, I mean, we even asked when I was on commission if we could go to taxi services, it'd be much cheaper, and you can't. You have to use a 20-passenger bus to pick up one person.
Why wouldn't you think about something like, for example, on the pathway to rails to trails, putting just a direct line from Center City to the medical center, something like that?
What Judy said when I went, she's drawn a map.
I'd have to
Crunch it.
crunch it.
Well,
Put a terminus in each and run your bus hubs, so to speak, off of that.
Tech is talking about wanting to
Sure be
do,
something to look at, because it would terminate, the part of it that we own terminates at Coulter.
But what she showed me was that they had a plan where they could put in 3 stations, 3 hubs. It would cause them to have wheels out here that go into the center. And that was 4 or 5 years ago. They knew they didn't have the funding to do it, but the problem was you don't touch all the population on rails to trails. You touch a minuscule part of it. If you did what she had planned, but there's not enough money for it, is you touch the whole population. Here's the lady that has a sick child, gets on the bus at, let's say she catches it at 8 o'clock or 7. Gets to Northwest Texas, takes the baby in to get it checked. The docs are all busy by then. You need to take a sleeping bag.
What's your
and
point?
lunch. You'd never get home that day.
well, and the other point
You'd
is
never get
she's,
home that day. It doesn't matter what hospital, it doesn't matter where she's going.
I'm thinking more about cab fares that come with your WIC. If you get WIC, we've got an alternate where you can give them a cab thing when they come to the WIC and it can be
Really?
validated. You know what I mean? Yeah, something like that, where you have kind of a 2-tier system where if somebody's got a special need, they can get this cab out.
And a lot of the special need on the bus system, as we think of it today, is being picked up through spec trends. As you all recall, that is rapidly, from something under 10% of the ridership up to about 40%. And we've continued to add spec trans vehicles. We added extra drivers, this time. It's more responsive, but it's harder to serve the same number the way that has to run.
Well, and are we still running into times where if a driver's sick or equipment's down, that when you do a spec train, somebody can wait 2 hours for a bus?
Well, that's why we've been adding those dedicated spec trans drivers, to avoid having to take the fixed route driver off of the fixed route.
An emergency.
And put them in the spec.
Because you have to pick up that spec train person by contract.
Yes. The way the rules are written, you can bring the remainder of the system to a stop. You have to run that spec trans for the one call.
Tech has
And it's
something.
more than one call. I don't want it to sound like we've got one van, one driver serving one person. but it's huge, and that's a door-to-door service. It doesn't run from a stop to a stop.
Tech has such a problem with no-shows, you know, because people just can't make it there when their appointment is, that they're wanting to talk about doing dedicated routes, as you suggested, somewhere in Northeast Amarillo, then directly to the medical center or back to like that. The other double whammy we need to remember is that when somebody's in wherever they are and they're trying to get to wherever for the doctor appointment, they've also taken off work and they're not getting paid anything. They have the kind of job where if they take off work, they're not getting paid.
Or you get fired.
Or you get fired, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're not gonna solve it today, it sure should be.
It's a big problem.
You sure would think it's gonna take 5 or 6 years to craft a solution?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Even carving out.
It would, because the simple solution is the one that's very difficult and then unpalatable to do.
Well, you know, over the years, some of the larger employers would love to have had bus service to get their workers there, like Tyson and Bell Helicopter. And of course, you know, that posed huge challenges, and I'm sure the need hasn't gone away, but, you know, at some point in time, I think we're gonna have a conversation with all these people and see how we can start addressing some of those.
Amarillo
needs.
College would be at the table, because we've
Well,
got
yeah.
to figure out a way for our students to get to our campuses.
Apparently the medical.
Medical community, that's where the largest
To-
employers.
Today, the
are.
buses, Tyson's not in the city.
No,
The
that's
buses
right, that's
don't
why.
run there. The buses don't run the airport.
I think they're getting everybody at the table, so really good.
I don't think it, maybe not right away, but it wouldn't hurt. I mean, I don't know what it would cost to fund what. To me, maybe it's not right, but I think Judy's the expert around here. She studied it and looked at it.
And they're from that same period of time in which we did that multi-hub study. We have some planning level numbers that'll show you, okay, I've got Route A, what would it cost to add a bus to Route A, double it up? Instead of 30 minutes gaps, 15-minute gaps. And we have the same for if we were to create a dedicated route, a new route, what would that route cost? And I just can't.
They told us, on the committee, we asked those questions, and the numbers I recall, I may be off, but they said $100,000 for every hour of service, $100,000 for every additional bus on the route.
I remember the second one being close to that. I don't.
So it's just not
We'll
cheap.
get them pulled up. We've got them.
We need to study
Not
it later.
cheap. Okay.
We were looking at extending the service longer and starting it earlier is where that second number came from. Which medical center, the mall area, has got tremendous ridership going back and forth. Phenomenal ridership going out to Advo into that area.
And Social Security probably.
Social Security.
Okay.
More to do.
Well, conversation that you were, telling me about, that's, education is important for the future of your community, and obviously, food and everything else. Having an ability for those folks that need that service to get to and from those services is just as big.
Okay.
All good comments and all stuff that we.
No easy answers.
Consent agenda, consent item A, purchase of vehicles. I would note that you can see that the majority of those were bid, both the vehicle and then the vehicle with the onboard Bluetooth. There is one line item, those mid-size sedans, the Bluetooth is actually standard, that's why there's no difference in the line item price. So obviously we'll take the one with Bluetooth. The other ones, because of the price differential, for those people, those operators that need it, will be adding those $80 in-the-car units rather than going through the radios. It's really hoping the price gap will be smaller. And we buy, a package that's generally so buried you can't find it on an advertising brochure. Anything we change the price. There's actually a couple of these dealerships, if you ever went and saw them, there are just acres and acres and acres of plain white vehicles.
What do we do with the old vehicles that we're replacing?
We auction them all.
Auction.
And believe it or not, the ones that are easiest to sell are the old police cars. And they're the ones that have been treated pretty rough.
Yeah, I see them around everywhere.
Yeah, and,
You see one.
Michael Rice and Willie Lander out at the garage, you know, they'll rotate those vehicles around to the extent that they can. There's not much of them left when we're ready to let them go. They run all day and don't move very far. It's a hard life. Item B, gate and tapping valves. Not much else to say. That's what these are. They are for primarily the water department. And they either allow you to turn on or off a pipe, or put a hole in a pipe and connect it to something else. For residential solid waste or refuse bags, it's that time of the year. We're buying our plastic bags. These will be for your hand pickup customers. And 5,000 hand pickups?
Oh,
Bigger than that now?
yeah, well, 5,000 is close. It's about 6 to 7% of all our residents are from pickup.
Seems like we just bought those bags.
Just bought those bags. And you know they're scattered all over town as far as to where the routes are that are picked up like this.
I noticed that this morning on Western Street, you know, all the people
Yeah,
put their
they do
garbage
that.
out in plastic bags.
Sunset Terrace, Country Club,
Avondale,
Avondale, some of the older ones.
Nagel Street, so. The big old house.
Parts of West Cliff, La Paloma.
Tasco's still pick up their own trash.
Those aren't city streets.
I know, because you gotta hit across it on 18.
Item D, ozone generator cells. These are the, one of the important functional pieces of the big ozone generator out at the Osage plant. Of course, what that ozone system does is it kind of supercharges the treatment plant, lets you run more water through faster, have it ready in times of high demand. Very unique equipment. These are spares. Same logic that we do as far as having pumps, motors, cabling, etc. on the shelf for the well fields. These are the two, right, Emmett?
Yes, sir. They actually are 270 tubes in a tube, and there's 3 sets, so you got about 800 and something different cells for the dielectrics. The dielectric is what changes ozone to oxygen to ozone. I can give you a 20-minute version if you want it.
Or when it warms up, we could go look at it
Let's wait till it warms up.
on the way to the wastewater plant.
Yeah. Yeah, Brian.
Which Brian needs to
And
do.
Mayor. The mayor.
Ready?
Oh,
I think
you're
today
ready
would be, I think
to
today
do.
would be a good day to
Let's
go.
go.
Yeah, no, wait till June. It's a special day.
Moving right along. Industrial tub grinder. Yes, this is the big one. It's time to replace that. One we have is a 2001 model.
What do you do with that? Grind it up?
Get auctioned off too, probably be for scrap value. These have a pretty rough life. More entertaining is the next one, though, the next chip processor. This is the one that the commission graciously approved in the budget this year for the Parks Department. This is to allow us to make our own base to put under the playgrounds and wherever Rod went.
That's not granola, I think
Oh.
it's
One of those is
Looks
what
like
comes
cinnamon
out, that's what
sticks.
comes out of the big machine.
Answer chips.
The what?
I used to have.
They can be colored and,
Reminds me of my kid.
that's what comes out of
Does it
item
smell
E.
like, does it smell like anything?
Oh, really? Okay.
So does
Smells
the
good.
public have an opportunity to access some of that grade or only that type? Only that one?
This is a much smaller machine with much lower
We
output.
could sell it.
George, smell this. It smells good.
I don't know where that wood came from.
It
Commissioner.
does smell good. Well, we're not touching it. We're smelling it.
We could sell it.
Sucking
that
that
stuff
stuff right
right
down
down
in your lungs. Yeah. It smells like the forest.
For us.
Says the girl from the high plane.
Show and tell is always a dangerous thing.
Sorry.
So it's a smaller machine?
What I did.
They do.
Good sideline businesses.
Yeah.
One of these days, we'll have the Dillo Dirt discussion for stuff that we can sell.
I
One of those things you find out at the wastewater plant.
When it rains, it smells like.
Item G, Westover Village Park splash pads, also an item approved in the capital budget for this year. And I think that Rod has the concept drawing on it. And Rod, this will be number,
Number 9 on a standalone, we got our 10th would be at Southwest Pool. This would be our 9th standalone. 7th done by Craftsman. This is going in Westover Village Park. I think it's in their information there. One of the reasons we chose that is because the other 8 are in areas north and northeast. And through our input meetings when we did our master plan, the questions always become, why don't we have one in the south or southwest part of town? So as we designed Westover Village Park, there was a splash pad in that park design when we did it, so it was a natural fit to go ahead and put this one in Westover Village. What you have there, we show the shade canopy, and we've done shade at Bones Hooks when we did the renovation on the pool. We've also done the shade at Hamblin. We keep hearing that they want shade. Parents and grandparents want the shade while the kids have the fun. So we're starting to shift a little bit more than the traditional splash pad would to add the seating in the shade, of course, for the mom and dad and grandma and everybody else. So, which on the backside, hopefully attracts more of the family aspect of it, as we were seeing in the other splash pads. So this is a craft coat. It's similar to what we did in Memorial. It doesn't have this design that Memorial has, but it's a solid color which offsets our sail shade canopies and our tables. And this is traditional, almost all ground sprays, as opposed to some of the outright features that we've done in the past, other than the wicket that we have here. It's very similar, but different in a way that we've got multiple different styles that they go around different parks and participations. So, this is Craftsman will be doing this project, and this will be their 7th they've done for us here as well. So, do a very good job from a quality service perspective, and we've had real good luck working with them. They anticipate to get here end of March, definitely open for the summer season. So.
Very nice.
Good.
Looking good.
The one at Memorial Park is just packed all the time.
That is our most highly used one.
Is it?
I anticipate this may be too, but Memorial's by far.
Memorial is, man, they're always packed. It's fun. You
That's
can
how
always
they
take
take relief
commissioner reads out
stress.
there.
Yeah.
We can do a ribbon cutting.
Yeah, very nice job.
Those 4th of dollar have probably been the most successful and beneficial park amenities we've ever been able to add. Real pleased to be able to do that.
Is the maintenance on those, are you just having to work on them all the time? I would just think that,
No, not really. There's a little work with the hard water and keeping, the amenities and the upright features clean, but we'll drain it and everything, kind of winterize it, and then basically turn it on. So,
It's
really a
really
lot
well.
to it now.
huh?
Very little mechanical parts
Yes.
to that. If you keep the nozzles from scaling.
So what do you, just like what we do at the house, just use vinegar and a little mild acid and just clean it? How about that?
It's system water, it doesn't stay in it, so that helps.
There's really not a pump or anything, it's the pressure off your water line. Where it's running through a manifold and irrigation valve.
They're all designed where the system pressure will run them.
Yeah. So there's not a lot to it.
No, it's a bigger connection. Item H, wastewater improvement. I knew we'd get to talk about that sooner or later.
It's inevitable.
This is relining with a cured and place liner some of your existing lines and crossings that we already have part of a pretty much continual process where we can do that. This is one of many different ways to get inside of a pipe and reline. But that is what it is. Okay. Item I, HIV prevention contract. Note this is an 8-month rather than a 12-month contract, but that is to get it lined back up with the state fiscal year. We came off the fiscal years a year ago when we had the 2 different contracts that were issued to fund it, as the state was watching for its money and subsequently us watching to get it. Say anything. Item J, aviation clear zone easement, and a reminder the clear zone is a protected piece of space around the airport. The closer you get, the more restrictive it is, and then the farther out you get, the less. So it's like a cup sitting over the top of it. Questions on the agenda? Did you get the transit number, or we need to try to extract that?
No, our local share for the FY 12-13 program for operating and capital is $1,466,160, $1.4 million.
1.4. And we're still spending our for all the maintenance.
Yes.
Yeah.
So probably about 2 cents.
Conceivably.
And of course, that's not gonna go down in the next 7 years.
Okay, quick announcement, just a reminder to everybody, the city of Amarillo is closed next Monday, the 21st, for an LK Day. So we will have the regular meeting on the 22nd.
We're reading a proclamation at 7 o'clock at the church on Sunday, and then there's another one at the parade or march the next day.
What time's the parade?
4, 10, 11?
No, they were supposed to send me that. Let me see if I
I
got it.
read it somewhere. I think it starts at 11. if I'm not mistaken.
They did it early.
I think you line up early and go late.
Yeah, that's what we did.
I think that's right.
Done it like the last 3 years. It's usually-
Is the famous car going in the parade?
No. Well, yeah, could do that.
It's not snowing.
You're gonna get the Christmas decorations.
Yeah, so I've done it for like 3 years, it's called. We're out there.
It says it's at noon, but I don't think that's exactly right.
And they're just working it around the inauguration.
Well, I think it's line up at noon, depart at 1 p.m.
Mayor, if we could, we'll go ahead and prepare to move to closed session with just kind of, though, like to point out and brag upon Amarillo's economy. I think we distributed sales tax reports, and as you noted, 4 months into this fiscal year, you're 8.7% above what was last year's collections.
Last year's what we're up.
Last year's were a record, which we're on top of the 11 year, which was a record. Take that and drill it down and compare it to your budget. And year to date, you're 4% over the budget. So the indicators are just, phenomenal right now for the retail economy.
Trending out to an extra $2 million in revenue for this year if it were to continue.
Maybe 3. If that exact trend held, if that same percentage is applied, it's about 3.
So that is money that, for instance, helps you maintain the police at Ratty, because that costs every year.
I noticed that the ones that lost sales tax revenues were mostly in the Metroplex.
I thought that's
And,
interesting.
that's interesting because now we're pretty much the state as a whole has been trending together. The places that are very heavy with the oil and gas money, of course, have been popped up about, middle of a 34%, month-to-month changes that they do. This month and a little bit in the prior month, you begin to start seeing that seesaw where there's winners and losers in those metro areas.
Probably some more explanation as to what that was.
I think it's related to the numbers of sensation.
I think some of it is, you get in those metroplex areas, there's just a hugely competitive retail environment.
They're stealing from each other.
Exactly.
Sugar
They're cannibalizing.
Houston, Frisco, look at Houston and Sugar.
Yeah.
Our percentage even beat Austin.
Who has the newest mall or the newest store? That's always been a strength of Amarillo, the regional center. We don't, they call that leakage. We just don't have that.
I gotta go 100 miles to.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the mayor and commission call a closed session pursuant to the following